Hello everyone, this is General Haggard. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. I'm back. Happy New Year everyone. I believe this is my first video of the new year. I might have had I think it's the second one. Whatever, who gives a shit, right? Anyway, this is going to be a new video series that I'm starting. This isn't on the rules, so I know I promised you a rules video series and I'm gonna get to that. I'm struggling with doing things like that right now, but this is something that is kind of like that, but not really. So this video series is not just me. It's going to be also with the lead designer, the guy that wrote the rules. Whenever I refer to him online, I call him the rules guy. It's my friend Morten from Denmark. So the two of us are going to be doing this video series, and I don't think either one of us are going to be on camera for any of it. It's going to be more of a discussion. So he'll be on speakerphone, and we'll talk to him that way. But anyway, what this series is going to be is more of a behind the scenes thing, and how we did it kind of thing. It's the design philosophy, and kind of delving into the differences between version 2 and version 3 for one thing. You know, why did we change this, and why did we word it that way? So it's going to be a really in-depth discussion, and this is something that we both wanted to do because we both monitor the online traffic for this game, and a lot of this discussion isn't just, you know, can you interpret this rule or that rule? It's, you know, like, why would they do that? Or, you know, why is this? I was just looking this morning about something, and somebody had a question on why on earth would this be the case instead of that? And, you know, it doesn't matter what it is exactly. It just, the point is that I thought that you guys would be interested in finding out what happens behind the scenes of a game like this. Now, in this first video, it's going to be more of an introduction kind of video for the whole series, and so I'm not going to have any pieces on the board or anything. There's just no specifics like that to show you in the first video. Mostly what we're going to be doing is discussing the background first, and then we'll get into more in-depth about specifics later. Anyway, so let's say hello to my friend Morten from Denmark. How you doing, Morten?
Hi, Ryan. I'm doing good, thank you.
Yeah, how's the weather over there? How's the weather over there in Denmark?
Oh, it's typical winter weather.
Yeah?
It rains a lot. It's foggy, so it's great weather for playing Global War.
Yeah, I bet. It's the weather is nothing like it used to be up here. I live pretty far north in Canada, and I'm used to bitter cold this time of year, and it's not even freezing weather outside right now. So we're getting more rain and snow, which is not the way I grew up. But anyway, enough about that. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for agreeing to do this with me. I know that this is something like you and I talk quite a bit, and this is something that we talk about amongst ourselves, but we don't really share with anybody else. And I think we both agree that this might be interesting for people to find out about, you know, how things like this occur. Like how did we come up with the rules for this game? And things like that. So let's just start out with you. How did you get into wargaming?
Well, I played Risk many years ago, and then I think it was around 10 years ago I discovered Axis and Allies, and played that quite extensively for some years. And then it got to a point where me and my play group, we started to notice the cracks in the game. And about that time, there were some postings on the Axis and Allies forum, and also starting on YouTube with people posting playbooks. And to me, that destroyed the game. So basically, I don't want to spend a whole weekend playing a game following someone's playbook.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way that,
So
that the game was just getting so scripted, right? Like, and and even if you tried to have a discussion online about it, then it was, like you say, okay, this is an idea that I have, and oh, you can't do that. The cruiser's got to go here. It's got to go in C zone, whatever, right?
yeah, I agree. I agree.
It's just so scripted, right? So how did you get into global war then?
Well, it actually started with trying to fix Axis and Allies with house rules.
Yeah.
But we more or less ended up just trying to put bandage on an artery that was messing up blood. So, and then I discovered Global War from historical board gaming, and it sounded interesting. So I started to gather pieces, bought the map, and then off we go.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. Like I started buying pieces from HBG, and I seen this game, and I thought, wow, that'd be a great game to play, because I was the same thing. Like how many house rules can you make for the same game? And the problem with doing that is that then those rules are only good for your table, right? You go to somebody else's house and they've got their own house rules, so there really wasn't a standardized set of rules for playing Axis and Allies anymore. Unless you were a fairly novice player and just playing the out of the box stuff, right? So you started playing that, but then how did you get involved with HBG, and how did you get on with being a designer with them?
Well, it started with me asking questions, and then it progressed to suggesting fixes to problems. And then it evolved to actual testing.
Oh yeah, so play testing.
Yeah, so basically, I had played Global War for a couple of years by then, and I had the same play group, so we were quite good at it, quite experienced, so we would test different solutions to the problems that we felt need addressing. So we went through a lot of games testing all kinds of weird rules, basically.
Oh yeah, I think I went through a few of those myself.
Yeah, so that progressed over a couple of years, and then HPT asked me to join the design team.
Oh yeah, Doug probably asked you, right? Like he's the guy that coordinates everything.
Yeah, and I've had extensive correspondence with Will, who was the lead designer behind the earlier versions.
You're talking about Will, right? Will Hansen?
Yes, Will, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's the guy that came up with the original concept for this game, isn't he? I don't know how much of a collaboration it was between him and Doug, but it seems like that he was the ideas guy. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I wasn't involved in the earlier versions, so I can't elaborate on how that went. But I think that it was Will's ideas that made it into the version 2 rulebook. So he's a very, very skilled designer.
Yeah, very dedicated too. So he, there's going to be a lot of games in this Global War series. I mean, we're getting near the final stages right now of Global War 1914, and 2025 is all ready to be put out. It's just waiting on some pieces. And so Will has been moving on to other games, and so that created an opening with redoing V3. So how did you get involved in V3 as a designer specifically, and what is your role?
Well, my involvement with HPG and Global War have steadily increased over the years, and at some point, Will and Doug asked me to take lead on V3,
Yeah.
so that Will could be totally freed from the project, so he could move on to other games. I think that happened a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So I worked on V3 for about a year, and it's been a year since it was released. So yeah, that's a couple of years ago, more or less.
Oh yeah. So like I envy guys like you that have a dedicated play group like that. With me, every time I play the game, there's always a new player there, and it's cool, getting new people involved and everything. But it sure would be nice to have a group of a bunch of people that really know how to play the game and stuff. So tell me a little bit about your group and what kind of role they played in creating version 3.
Well, I've played with the same people for more or less 4 years now. So my current group is approximately 4 years old, and I've also been involved with other groups, other European groups, and so there are some quite experienced players in Europe, and due to the distances, we've actually met a couple of times for a awesome weekend.
Oh yeah. Yeah, basically that's all I can do is put together a weekend and bring people in from out of town. And where I live, it's pretty remote, right? Like it's 100 kilometers to the nearest town in all 4 directions.
Well, I have driven 800 kilometers to play a game, so I mean.
Yeah, me too.
That's just.
Yeah, that's how far Rank Carcass lives from me.
Yeah, that's. I mean, the game is so fun that I'm willing to drive 800 kilometers.
Yeah. And it's a game that's not going to be done in 3 hours or something too, right? Like it is going to take you a couple days. And so, like it's something that you can make a weekend out of, right? When you guys get together, like, do they shoot ideas at you too? Like, how much of version 3 can you attribute to them? I don't mean give this guy 30% credit or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, do you throw the ideas at them and they test them, or do you all come up with ideas?
Well, I think designing a game like this is not a one-man show, and so I steal ideas from everyone I can steal them from. I have some ideas and I ping pong with people, and so part of being a good designer is actually killing your own darlings. So
what do you mean by that?
Idea, thinking they are awesome is probably not the best trait of a designer. So it can be difficult to see the cracks in your own creations.
Oh, I know what you mean now, yeah. Like I've done that too. Hey, this sounds like a great idea in your head, but then when you go to play it, you think, well, that was kind of dumb.
And sometimes it takes a lot of going back and forth to actually realize that it actually doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've become much better at looking at things and breaking it apart and thinking about if this works or not. And sometimes we have wasted a whole game because we have tested something that was totally broken.
Yeah.
So it actually requires the right set of people to play test this, because you end up going down several dead ends.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like like I've gone through half a game, and in fact, when we were working on 14 there, Bob and I, we'd get halfway through a game and change the rules, and then have to backtrack 3 turns. Say, okay, well, Japan wouldn't have done that, so let's just take those ships and put them back on the other side of the board. Like you might as well, right? Or just go through the whole game. So what else do you see? Like, what is your philosophy behind designing a game?
I have some principles that I stick to, and so simplicity is very important to me.
What is?
Simplicity.
Oh, okay.
And that might sound weird, thinking about how complex the game Global War is. But when I was playing, a lot of the things that happened in V3 was actually patients of stuff from 2, because, for example, let's go into details about the specifics for later videos series.
Yeah.
But one example is if I can simplify a thing without losing any action or gameplay, or the game becomes easier to learn and faster to play.
Yeah, that's right. Like when you don't have to keep going back to the rules, things that you can memorize easily. I find that when you start using complex formulas just to do something pretty simple, like every unit has a different whatever, and instead of just rolling the dice, right, and standardizing things really moves the game along faster.
Yeah, and I mean, when I started playing, we had to look at the rule books a dozen times each game.
Yeah.
And we spent several hours on a game, pouring through rules, discussing what is meant by this rule and what are the prices for this unit for the Japanese, because it's different from other nations. So I wanted to simplify possible so that people didn't need to look at the rule book. And from watching my own group, I could actually see firsthand how we actually played more and more without resorting to the rules.
Yeah.
So I've made a one-pager for each alliance with the info that each alliance needs. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people did that with version 2.
You can go a whole game without looking at the rules because it's necessary.
Yeah.
That's one principle. One other thing is I hate scripting. So whenever something is scripted, I would like to see if it needs fixing or if something is broken.
You want to have multiple ways of accomplishing the same thing, is what you're saying.
I want to have dilemmas in the game.
Oh, okay.
So the players, they don't do the same thing all the time, because that's a perfect strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not like I love, for example, random events, because I don't. It's more like within the core rules and the options available. I would like to have players facing dilemmas. So a lot of the new stuff in V3 actually came from that design philosophy. One of the other design philosophies is that it should be playable by 5 people, more or less on a very long day or 1.5 day, and 3 people should be able to play it in 2 days. And that's actually quite important, because a lot of the concepts or the rules you could actually potentially introduce in the game takes time. So let's say that you are considering introducing, for example, it could be partisans in the rules, right? Or resources or whatever. So if introducing partisans prolongs the game by 3 hours, is it worth it? Perhaps not.
Yeah.
And are there other things that could be introduced that take 3 hours of gameplay that would bring more fun to the game?
Yeah. When I'm playing a game, I'm kind of two minds. Like there are times when I'm up for that kind of a challenge where I don't care how long it takes, and but other times when that I just know what expansions are going to take that long, and so we just avoid those ones because like we've got to get it done by a certain time limit.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, and even though it's great, and you never want a day to end when you play this, we have to face the fact that if you can't complete a game over a weekend, then what? I mean, then you have to wait, and people have to come back, perhaps, or so it's that's also quite important. That and another thing is historical accuracy versus gameplay, and people have their own opinions on this, and some people prefer one or the other. But to me, it's a game, and if I have to sacrifice accuracy for a great game, then I'm willing to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like that's like I love this game because it's much more historically accurate than Axis and Allies. But at the same time, like I've talked to people who they really want to take it much further than that. Like they want every tank to have its own stats and every boat to have its own stats. Oh no, there's one ship that was called this. Like it was better than this other ship, and like that's just yeah, that's accurate, but how much fun is that, right?
Yeah, precisely. And I mean, if you have some experienced players, they should be able to switch alliances pretty quickly without hassle. And if you have too detailed or too accurate rules, then it's very difficult to just switch nations and switch which nations to play. So that's also something that I look at when doing the rules. I mean, are they so easy to understand and so simple that people can just switch alliances without too much hassle? Of course, new players will always find it difficult, but for experienced players, they should be able to switch sides easily. And the last thing I want to mention about the philosophy is it's at this point it's very much evolution and not revolution. I mean, we have a great game, and if you make too much or too big changes, I mean, it takes a year or two to play test to make sure that it doesn't screw things up down the line, because all the rules are intertwined, and it is a complex beast. So you end up doing a change one place, and then it totally blows up in another section of the game.
Yeah.
Sometimes
not only that, but it can make it
that until 5 or 10 games.
Yeah. It can make it a different game too. I mean, why? If you've got a good game, why would you want to make it a different game? You want to improve it, but I've seen that happen before with other games where it's just not even the same game anymore because they tried to improve it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, improvement are good, but not for their own sake.
Yeah. Yeah, you improve things that need improving.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to get into a lot of those things in upcoming videos. We've already talked a lot about what we're going to do and things. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I already know a lot of what you're talking about, but I'm also interested in to hear the stuff that I don't know, because you and I have spent hours of discussing things and trying to make an old guy like me understand how to play this game more than anything, right? It's not an easy rule set to come up with. So I don't want this video to go on too long because I don't want these videos to be like a regular general hand grenade video of 2.5 hours or less. You know, I'd like to keep them under half an hour. But there is one more question, one burning question that I have for you, and I don't know if you're going to answer it or not. But you know, I know that you're working on version 4 already. I know that you aren't going to be satisfied. Like probably played 2 games after the V3 map came out, and then you're working on version 4. So, is there any details that you want to share with us on what's going to come up in version 4 in a few years from now?
Well, now that the secret is out, that I'm working on version 4. Basically, it's more of the same. It's more simplifying, and it's more balanced fine tuning. So basically, what happened after V3 was released is that you can sort of like say that the development has continued.
Yeah.
So the development has continued. You can call it a development branch. If you're in software development, you have these development branches that goes on to formal releases. So my group, we don't play version 3 at all.
Oh, really?
They play something else, and that's something else will then hopefully be maturing into version 4 down the line.
So you're not going to tell us any specifics, though, eh? You're not working on anything like strategic bombing or convoying or anything like that? Yeah, there's nothing you want to give us? No tidbits? It's okay if you don't want to. I can understand.
Well, there are so many things that, Brian, when you ask me questions about the rules, I have to look things up because I can't remember the V3 rules as they were published because I've gone to, and sometimes it's small pieces that is evolving. So basically, I perhaps play 10 games a year, and my group is also playing, and they're playing with other people. So let's say that version 2 came out a year ago, and since then we have 20 games under our belt. So when you play a game for 20 games, you start to notice things that are could need fixing or could need more polishing, and so that is the foundation of the changes that is evolving to version 4 is, well, we now have a lot more games under our belt, so we know, well, this perhaps a bit awkward, or this that are amazing on paper. After 10 or 15 games, it is proven to be less than perfect. So it needs a bit of tweaking to get it. So it's the rule set is evolving, and it basically it comes from a desire to. So if you bring some friends over for a week, I want to make that weekend as fun as possible. So to get a game out that is more and more balanced and equals more and more fun. So, like I said, I'm willing to drive 800 kilometers to play a game, and I'm not willing to do that if the game is broken.
Yeah.
And if I'll be playing someone that I know will be exploiting a hack or will be doing the same old perfectly because I know that he's a very good player and he always do that. So the game must be so balanced that these playbooks and perfect strategies, they don't show up.
Yeah.
And it's possible with the components that we have in the game and the complexity we have. So that's some of the thinking behind version 4. And I know that some people there was some going on when version 3 came out that we bought version 2, so we already invested a lot of money and now you want more money. So
it was never about the money. We were just trying to make the game better. I know that.
Yeah. And I mean, could you play 3 rules on a version 2 map? I don't see why not. I mean, you could adapt the game if you wanted to. But, I mean, the version 3 map is so much better.
Yeah. So, do you think that the version 4 map will be a lot different than the version 3 map, or do you see this map as being somewhat close to where it needs to be?
Well, there are some good changes coming along for version 4, but you could probably play, or you could play version 4 on the version 3 map. No problem.
Have you got yours all marked up with a Sharpie yet?
Well, my war room is a mess.
Oh, okay.
With maps and post-it stuff, and yeah, and I'm doing other stuff as well. So I have to change my table depending on what I'm working on.
Yeah.
And playing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we better wrap this up now. So I appreciate you joining me, and it's always good talking to you, bud. And I think we should make this a weekly thing. What do you think? We'll do it once a week.
Yeah, once a week. That sounds good.
Until we've talked it all to death. Okay. So anyway, thanks a lot for joining me, and starting next week, we'll start delving into more specifics of the version 3 game and why it was designed the way it was, and maybe even illustrate the difference between that and version 2 and why those changes were made. I'm looking forward to that. So anyway, it must be getting pretty late over there, so I better let you go to bed, eh?
Thank you, Brian.
Okay. Okay, you too. Take care.
Yes.
Okay, bye. Okay, so he's gone. Anyway, so I think you got kind of an idea of what we're going to be doing here. That was mostly just an introduction thing to show you where we're going to go with this series. But, you know, like in the future, I think the next video, we've already talked about that. We're going to be talking about like the monetary aspects of the game. You know, like the build queue is different. It's only 3 instead of 2. So we'll talk about why that is, and, you know, and repairing capital ships, and, you know, like all kinds of stuff, right? Anything to do with money, that's what we're going to talk about next week. So join me and my friend Morton then when we delve into that. Take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.